In a now deleted post on Instagram, Selena Gomez made a story where she was crying about the people being deported from America, and the U.S. government has now responded to it.
I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked.
Welcome back, it's about FITTI to the E. Today we're taking a look at these creepy TikTok videos. If you guys like the video, remember to like the videos, try to get to 1,000 likes this video. I was just out in Tampa, Florida. I was at Gasparilla. I don't know if you guys know what that is. There was apparently like 300,000 people there. So if you were there, let me know down in the comments. You might have seen me, maybe. You might have been like, is that him? And you just didn't know, but I was out there for a little bit. And if you aren't subscribed, make sure to subscribe.
It's quite possible that this training flight of this Black Hawk helicopter was a covert style training mission of going black, if you like, and not having any electronic tracking turned on, and a tragic error of doing this around an airport, an active airport. I mean, if they're going to do that sort of training, it should be done well away from an active airport, like Reagan National.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but apparently a couple of days ago, I'd say like 1 or 2 days ago, there was a plane crash. And it wasn't no normal plane crash. It was a stealth helicopter that crashed into a commercial aircraft. And it was just making me think, like, why is there a military grade aircraft in the same radius as a commercial flight? I don't know if you guys have ever been in a helicopter before, but the thing about helicopters, they're pretty versatile. They can go up, down, left, right. But why was it directly on the same path as a commercial plane? The commercial plane would have to take more maneuvers to get out of the way of the aircraft. So I don't know. I completely blame the stealth helicopter for that incident. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments.
Dream signs you should never ignore. 1. When you dream that a family member dies, it's because they have more time to live than you think. 2. If you dream of taking a test, it may indicate feelings of being unprepared or evaluated in real life. 3. If you have dreams about your teeth falling out, it's a sign you have said something that you now regret. 4. Having a dream about a breakup is your subconscious sending you red flags about your current relationship and telling you to reconsider it. 5. Dreaming of looking at yourself in a mirror could be a sign of something staring back at you. 6. Dreaming of your old home means you are reverting to old patterns or things that no longer serve you. 7. It is believed that when you dream of a family member, you are giving them more years of life. 8. You must share your bad dreams or they may come true. 9. If you dream about the person you like, it's because they thought of you before sleeping. 10. Dreaming of someone you've never met could be your subconscious telling you someone is watching you. 11. If you dream of losing something valuable, it might reflect feelings of insecurity or fear of loss. 12. Dreaming of being chased may reflect feelings of stress or running away from a problem.
Dreams could be so weird because the message could be anything. Like, I had a dream that I was drinking expired milk. I was just like, what the hell is the meaning behind that? Like, why am I drinking? It was so weird because I just remembered looking at the milk and I was like, why is it purple? I drank it anyways. And I was like, oh no, this is expired. And I just started to throw up in the dream. I'm just like, what do y'all think that could mean? If you look it up on Google, it's probably going to be like, you've been in a situation you don't like for way too long or something like that, and it's expired and you need to let it go.
This is everything that happened at Trump's inauguration. Before it even started, both pro and anti-Trump demonstrations kicked off in Washington, with one side even bringing a guillotine. All the guests started to arrive, which included the likes of Shou Chu, Joe Rogan, Tim Cook, Jeffrey Bezos, Obama, without Michelle, the Paul brothers, Conor McGregor, Senator John Fetterman, who casually turns up in a hoodie and gym shorts in the middle of winter, and of course, Zuck, who got caught in 8K, 120 FPS. They said bro was looking at Silicon Valley. Oh, and while the inauguration in the United States was beginning, so too was the one in Nigeria. While waiting for the event to begin, Elon was either, I don't know, rebooting or sending out a tweet with his Neuralink. This was Melania's POV for the entire day. And when it was time for everyone to take their seats, Theo Von's collapsed. After which he said, JD Vance was sworn in as the vice president with his right hand up and his left hand on the Bible. And then when it was Donald Trump's turn, he only put his right hand up. So he either forgot or just didn't put his left hand on the Bible as is customary. And after, once it became official, Trump then gives his speech where he says a number of things like, the golden age of America begins right now, that as of today, the official policy of the United States government is that there's only 2 genders, that America will plant their flag on Mars, that they will drill baby drill, take back the Panama Canal, push for a colorblind, merit-based society, and rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Once the inauguration after party began, we got Mike Tyson on Jake Paul's shoulders, Elon Musk sending the internet into a frenzy after doing this, we got Trump dancing with a sword, Trump and Elon moving their body to music, oh, and hyper-realistic footage of what Baron Trump looked like all day. Trump then went on to sign a huge number of executive orders, which I will go through in a part 2 in a couple of hours.
Worst ways people have died. In 2008, 17-year-old Asia LaShawn Ferguson was riding the Batman ride at the Six Flags amusement park when his hat flew off his head. After getting off the ride, he scaled 2 fences and entered a restricted area in an attempt to retrieve his hat. As he reached his hat, the Batman ride came barreling towards him at 50 miles per hour and ended up decapitating him instantly. Next, in 2013, 22-year-old Kyle Lee Stocking and his 5 friends saw a rope swing stunt on YouTube and wanted to recreate it. Everything was fine, but there was one fatal thing that they didn't check properly. The length of the rope was longer than the drop down, so when Kyle jumped, he plummeted straight into the ground, killing him instantly.
Hell in Different Religions, Part 2. Buddhism. In Buddhism, after you die, you can be reborn into one of the 6 realms of reincarnation. Which realm you'll be put into depends on your actions in your previous life. The lowest realm possible is the realm of Naraka, which is hell. Now, there are different Narakas you can be put into, it just depends on how bad you were in your previous life. Each of these Narakas having vastly different punishments, and the climates in the different Narakas can range from incredibly cold to boiling hot. But the time spent in Naraka is never eternal. Once you've served your punishment, you'll be reborn once again. But the time one does spend in Naraka can be hundreds of millions of years, or well beyond that.
I don't know why, but I thought in Buddhism, they'd be like, yeah, we're just going to make you get reborn as like a squirrel or something, or a cockroach. I didn't know it was that deep. But I've heard some of you guys said that you guys like my beanie. So if you guys like my beanie, I'm going to list it here somewhere. You're gonna see it pop up, so you guys could buy it. It's from the official store. It's just a link, so if you guys buy through my link, I also do get paid. I do get like a percentage, so if you guys like it, buy it. It's not a cheap beanie, but like, you know what I'm saying, nice things are not always cheap.
This man served 17 years in prison after being mistaken for someone that looked just like him. In 1999, Richard Jones was falsely accused and imprisoned for a robbery that happened at a Walmart in Kansas. A robber tried to snatch a purse from a woman in a parking lot, but this man was not Richard. It was a man who looked just like him and had a similar name as Richard. The person that they should have been looking for was this man named Ricky Amos. But unfortunately, an eyewitness at the Walmart identified Richard as a culprit and testified against him in court. Even though Richard had an alibi at the time of the crime, it wasn't enough evidence and he was put behind bars for a 19-year sentence. Richard tried to appeal, but nothing ever came out of it. Now, 16 years later, in 2015, other inmates began telling Richard that there was another inmate who looked just like him. Richard had a gut feeling, so he contacted his attorney, and when they put Richard and Ricky side by side, it was clear that they were identical and they might have made a mistake. 17 years later, Richard was finally released from prison when the witnesses said that they can barely tell the difference between the 2 men. After his release, Richard received a $1 million settlement by the state.
If life gave you a choice right now, right? It says, hey, choose between 17 years of your life in prison, but at the end of it, you get $1 million. Which one? What would you do? Would you not take it, or would you take it? Let me know your thoughts about that.
Urban legends that ended up being real, part 28. The Dark Watchers. They are most commonly spotted in California. They are near the steep cliffs of Big Sur. They are described as shadowy figures that watch from a distance. One encounter comes from a lady named Clara Jenkins. She was a hiker who ventured into the hills alone in the early 2000s. She was determined to find the perfect spot to watch the sunset over the Pacific Ocean. She had hiked this trail many times before and thought little of the stories, but this time something was different. As she climbed a narrow path to reach the peak, she saw a tall, dark figure standing motionless ahead of her. She called out, but the figure didn't respond. The moment she tried to step toward the figure, a rush of wind blew through the trees and the figure was gone. Another story comes from 1982 when a local rancher named Thomas Holloway was working late into the evening repairing a fence near the base of a ridge when he noticed something strange in the distance. Standing on the crest of the hill was a figure tall and unmoving, staring down at him. Holloway, having grown up in the area, was no stranger to the folklore, but this was the first time he had seen the Watchers up close. That night, Holloway's dog disappeared disappeared without a trace. The next morning, he found strange markings around his property, deep scratches in the earth as if something had dragged itself across the ground.
These paintings are much more disturbing than they appear. This painting shows George Bush throwing a paper airplane at 2 Jenga towers that are knocked over. It clearly represents Bush's involvement in 9/11. But what's even scarier is that exact painting was found in Jeffrey Epstein's living room, who used to be friends with Bush. These are a series of paintings created by artist Louis Wayne back in the 1900s. They capture his slow descent into increasingly worse
Here are 3 real ways to survive encountering your doppelganger. According to ancient mythology, doppelgangers are malicious entities that look and act exactly like us and seek to replace us in our own lives. The first thing you'll want to do to avoid having a run-in with your evil twin is to destroy or get rid of all of the mirrors in your possession. One of the most common tricks that a doppelganger will use to try and infiltrate a person's home is to impersonate their reflection, since they are capable of entering the mirror world. Unfortunately, you can't get rid of all of your reflective surfaces, but you don't have to make it easy for them. If you really need a mirror, buy one that's too small to crawl through. Secondly, if possible, you're going to want to try and build a very close relationship with the people around you, especially your family, as they are the people who are exposed to you the most. That way, when your doppelganger does find you, they'll be able to tell the difference and hopefully give you some forewarning. And above all, if you suspect that your doppelganger has located you, you're going to need to pay very close attention to your surroundings. Don't write off any details, no matter how small they may seem. If something feels off or out of place, they may already be inside. Comment if you think that you could outsmart your doppelganger, and follow for more.
I low-key feel like I could outsmart my doppelganger. I feel like I'm just too unique for my doppelganger. It'd come out and just do some like normal stuff. I'm like, dude, I would never do that. That's not me, dude.
Nurse put this dying baby beside her twin sister to say goodbye, but it's what happens after that will make you cry. Twin sisters Kyrie and Brielle Jackson were born in Massachusetts in 1995. They were born 2 months early, so they were struggling to breathe and stay alive. So they were put in separate incubators to make sure they would stay alive. As the days passed, Kyrie's condition got better while Brielle's got worse. She was turning blue and was just barely alive. Brielle was dying and the nurse was doing everything she could to help her, but it wasn't working. A few days later, the nurse decided it was finally time to let go. So she put Brielle beside Kyrie to say one last goodbye. But as she felt the presence of her twin sister, something amazing happened. The nurse couldn't believe it. Brielle began to breathe normally again and made a full recovery. This is Kyrie and Brielle today, happy and healthy.
Proof we are not alone, part 2. These are fossils recently discovered in Egypt, and what they show is terrifying. You can see when the fossils are placed together, they completely dwarf this human. What you're seeing is an ancient Egyptian demon of chaos called Apep.
Hello, my friend. What you're actually showing are whale fossils, discovered in a place in Egypt called Wadi al-Than, meaning Valley of Whales. Millions of years ago, this place was underwater, and so there's a huge concentration of whale fossils as well as the fossils of other creatures like sharks and turtles. Fossils in this location started being discovered about 120 years ago. But yeah, not quite an ancient Egyptian demon of chaos.
Don't watch this at night, you've been warned. This is the story of a video game called Sad Satan. This game is thought to have originated on the dark web. In the original game, supposedly found on the dark web, you walk down a hallway while horrifying images are shown to you. These images allegedly include things like CP, mutilated corpses, and other snuff content, and apparently even playing the original version of the game would destroy your computer because of all the viruses that it had attached to it. Now, nobody has found the original version of the game, and people aren't even sure it exists. But there is a quote clean version of the game that you can actually go and watch gameplay for.
Mom with a giant belly thinks she's having twins, but then the doctors make a shocking discovery. Mike and Hannah were trying to have kids for so long, and after years of failing, her pregnancy test finally showed positive. Her belly was growing really fast, test, and after the first ultrasound, it turns out she was having twins. The couple was really happy all throughout the pregnancy until she was about to give birth. But a couple weeks before the babies were due, her belly really started hurting and her water broke. She was immediately rushed to the hospital where doctors made a shocking discovery. Before I tell you, do you want to get paid to literally just walk? Well, I found this app that pays you for every step you take. And today, I've already made 100 sweat coins. Press the link in my bio if you want to get paid too. When the doctors performed the C-section, it turns out she wasn't carrying twins, but she was actually carrying quadruplets. Mike and Hannah were so happy to be parents to 4 beautiful babies.
Well, that's crazy. So for twins or triplets and quadruplets, do you have to do C-sections or do you push those out? Because how do you push out 4 babies back to back to back? That should be so much trauma. I'm not gonna lie. It's also a lot of money. Like 4 kids, taking care of 4 kids, that's damn near like what? Over $1 million. I'm pretty sure they say it's like $200,000 to $300,000 per child until from 0 to the age of 18. Something like that. I don't know the stats, but I heard that somewhere.
These are just some of the major changes for America that Trump made official yesterday. He signed an executive order reinstating the death penalty for any illegal migrant who commits a capital crime and anyone convicted of murdering a law enforcement officer. He declared a national border emergency, halting all illegal entry immediately, which also paves the way for US troops to be sent to the southern border. He delayed the TikTok ban by 75 days. He ordered 2 name changes, the Gulf of America and Alaska's Mount Denali to Mount McKinley. He officially signed Doge into existence, which is the new department led by Elon to cut government spending. He signed a mandate where all federal workers must work in the office, saying that over half of the 2 million federal employees either work regularly from home or are fully remote. He pardoned about 1,500 defendants charged in the January 6th attack on the US Capitol. He signed an order to restore freedom of speech in America and end government censorship. He reversed 78 Biden administration regulations, including pausing foreign aid, reversing the acceptance of gender identity, now only recognizing 2 genders, and the other is to do with the pandemic, and I can't even say it on here, otherwise the video will get censored. Go to my YouTube for that. He is removing America from the World Health Organization in 12 months, saying that they are ripping off the country and the United States will stop all financial contributions to their work. He withdrew America from the Paris Climate Agreement for the 2nd time, calling it an unfair, one-sided ripoff. I mean, that was just part of a much broader effort to roll back climate policy, because he also declared a national energy state of emergency, promising to fill up oil reserves and drill baby drill, and also cut off climate-related funding, which was approved under the Biden administration. And all of that was day 1. So the question is, does this excite or scare you?
For hundreds of years, people in California have reported seeing these tall, dark figures standing on tops of mountains watching over people. These cloaked figures are called dark watchers. Most people see these figures and notice how tall they actually are. These guys mainly show up in the afternoon. Like it says in their name, these guys mainly just watch over people from a distance. These guys have been here for hundreds of years. Even the Spanish reported seeing them in the 1700s. The Spanish had a name for them. They called them Los Vigilantes Oscuros. When you translate that to English, they're called the Dark Watchers. So you might be asking, what do these guys even do? Well, like it says in the name, they mainly just watch. They don't attack hikers, they just stand there. People say that they are bad omens, and I don't know if I agree with that. While they're harmless, it's still kinda creepy knowing that these guys are just watching over you. What's even weirder is that if you try to go near it, they just completely vanish.
It looks like I might have been wrong about the Pooniverse all along. When it was first initially announced, I thought the Pooniverse had to do with all of these characters fighting one equal being or just unaliving people in general. I didn't know they were going to be fighting each other in some gauntlet-style horror movie. This photo was released yesterday with the caption, "Place your bets," with Winnie the Pooh looking at Peter Pan. Of course from Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, and Peter Pan from Peter Pan Neverland Nightmare, with the title, Pooniverse, Monsters Assemble. Now look, I could be completely looking at this wrong, but it looks like these two are either A, going to be teaming up, or B, they're going to be scrapping. Their universes may be colliding. So on one hand, you have all of the characters from Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, Tigger, Piglet, Owl, and of course Winnie the Pooh, versus everybody over in Peter Pan Neverland Nightmares universe, which if you haven't seen the movie, you have Tinkerbell, Peter Pan of course, and Captain Hook. For some reason those odds don't make sense. You also have to take into account other characters that are going to be releasing later this year, with Bambi the Reckoning. Bambi's going to be in on that too. And finally Pinocchio Unstrung. Now we also got this list that was recently released, some other movies that are going to be coming out. Maybe not this year, but in the universe itself. Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 3, Awakening Sleeping Beauty, Alice in the Mad Hatter, and Snow White Returns. All from this picture, it looks like they're going to be fighting. Who are you putting your money on?
This is why you should always lock your doors. A man in Venezuela was woken up in the dead of night to a strange haunting whistle. At first, he thought it was his mind playing tricks, but then he heard it again. Dragging footsteps echoed through the silence, creeping towards his room. But as whoever's outside arrives at the door, this happens. Something tries to get inside. The man believes he was visited by El Silbón, a wandering spirit of death from Venezuelan folklore, known to enter homes with open doors. The further it sounds, the closer he is.
What? There's a theory why they actually took down TikTok for that little period.
Why?
Apparently, like, they didn't even have to ban, or they didn't have to take it down.
Okay.
Because they never got like a notice from the government saying, yo, let's take it down. So them taking it down was almost the litmus test to see how it would go.
Okay.
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Now, the theory is, the reason they did that though, was because there's too many real conspiracies on the app that were becoming way too popular.
Okay.
And they just wanted to reset everybody's algorithm.
Word.
So a lot of people on TikTok right now, they're saying they used to have all of these TikToks of conspiracy theories, LA fires, Diddy, Luigi, and there was so much at once.
Yeah.
And it's hard to stop that from becoming popularized if that's what's going viral, right? So what happens to everyone's For You page? Goes deeper and deeper into conspiracy, into almost like breaking down government secrets.
Because that's what the algorithm would feed that person.
Exactly. And it's popularizing that mindset of looking like that.
That's crazy. They just don't want man's informed. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So what people are saying was that reset was to make everybody's For You page different.
Okay.
And to change everyone so that they can just push more whatever.
Yeah. It's crazy because like usually I do my research on TikTok before I come in the podcast. Like some YouTube, some TikTok, but like directly TikTok. And there are some conspiracy theorists that I usually like take like I research stories from. And yo, you have to, it's like they're shadow banned. Like you got to search for them. But I actually had to search up his profile, like his whole name, type in his whole name.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a theory, but he is right because they really didn't have to take it down. I think the TikTok CEO was saying he was just scared because if the Biden administration said they weren't going to enforce it, but if they did end up enforcing it, they'd have to pay like $5,000 per user. And if you don't know, TikTok has over like 300 million users, so that'd be a lot of money for them. So they just played it safe. And once Trump really got in, that's when they kind of brought it back. But one thing they did say that's really true is that the whole algorithm changed. My algorithm is not the same as it used to be. Like, I really don't get as much conspiracy theories videos. Like these videos that I have to put in this video right now, I personally had to like look up like names and things. Like my whole algorithm's a little bit different. I don't know why. And a lot of people have been saying the same thing.
This one Chinese app single-handedly wiped $1 trillion from the US stock market yesterday and sent shockwaves around the world. But just a couple of days ago, hardly anyone even knew its name. Today, however, it's being called a Sputnik moment, referring to the day that Russia became the first country in the world to send a satellite into space and marking the beginning of the infamous space race. So here's why even Trump is calling this a wake-up call. You see, 8 years ago, Vladimir Putin said something that has become a commonly used phrase. Whoever controls the future of AI controls the world. And for years, experts have been saying that China is years behind America when it comes to artificial intelligence. And low-key, the US government kinda could take a little credit for that. Because 3 years ago, they banned Nvidia, the world's leading AI chip maker, from selling to China. And that was meant to ensure America's global dominance of AI. But kinda like the TikTok ban, it looks like that might have massively backfired. You see, necessity breeds innovation. So this small, relatively unknown research lab in China was forced to rethink everything from the ground up. And the result? They managed to create an AI model that is just as good, if not even better, than OpenAI's most advanced model, and here's the kicker, for 90% less of the cost. OpenAI spends $5 billion a year, and it took $100 million just to train GPT-4, while the DeepSeek project cost $5.5 million. That is so staggeringly cheap that a lot of people refused to even believe it. Bro, just a few days ago, some of the biggest US tech companies invested over $500 billion in just AI data centers. And then they see China creating this for less than $6 million? Of course the US stock markets would crash. In fact, Nvidia lost close to $600 billion in market cap, becoming the biggest drop for any company in a single day in US history. Oh, but DeepSeek? They did one more thing. They not only dropped this AI for free, while OpenAI is charging $200 a month, but they also dropped it open source, meaning anyone, anywhere can access the code, improve it, adapt it, and even use it to build their own AI models for free. And that is insanely ironic because OpenAI is closed, while DeepSeek is now literally OpenAI. This caused so much disruption that after they shot to #1 in the App Store, they were forced to temporarily limit user registrations due to large-scale malicious attacks on their services. And just like that, all of us, we just witnessed an inflection point where the race to create the world's most advanced AI just got freaking serious. And that is scary.
Yeah, bro, I've been trying to tell my friend for the longest, like, I think China is, like, catching up to America. Like, I feel like Americans do not, and really badly do not want to admit it, but, like, I think China is literally catching up. Like, TikTok is a Chinese app. This DeepSeek stuff is a Chinese AI that's apparently better than any AI that the US has ever created. All we know, China can honestly be the best country in the world, and the US might just be telling us that we're the best. Like, you really would never know. But all I know is that within the next 10 to 20 years, there's a possibility that China could be running America, unless we could change our circumstances.
Curdling facts that you wish you never knew. Part 18. A man from Queens once spent 5 months in jail completely unaware that his bail was just $2. Since spiders molt, when you see what you might think is a dead spider, it could just be that the spider left behind its exoskeleton and is now bigger than before. Dr. Seuss cheated on his wife while she had cancer, and then she proceeded to commit suicide. Almost everyone on Earth is walking around with a bunch of poop inside of them. Scientists accidentally killed the world's oldest living animal, which was a clam that lived to be 507 years old. Statistically speaking, at least one person who comments on this video will not be alive tomorrow. The real reason you shouldn't eat raw cookie dough isn't because of getting sick from eating raw eggs. It's because you shouldn't eat raw flour, which contains fecal matter from all the birds flying over the field and pooping on the wheat.
What was the Russian sleep experiment? The Russian sleep experiment is where they took 5 prisoners of war and kept them captive in a room for 30 days without sleep. The whole goal of this whole experiment was to see what would happen to the human body and mind without sleeping for 30 days. Kind of like a sleep deprivation experiment. And I'm gonna be honest, the way they were keeping them awake was absolutely insane. Not only having oxygen constantly pumped throughout that room, kind of like a casino, because obviously there was no windows because they didn't want them to know what time of day it was. Sort of, as I said, like a casino where they pump oxygen in, you have no idea what time it is, and you kind of always feel awake. But the other way they were keeping them awake was by pinning them with amphetamines to ensure them staying awake. Now obviously the experiment did not go as planned, with some of them just being unalive just due to the fact of being up for too long. Others screaming so loud that their vocal cords actually ripped out, causing them to be unalive. Now back in 2018, we were supposed to be getting a full feature-length film, a real adaptation of this creepypasta into a movie. Now there are some pretty good short films on YouTube depicting this whole entire story, but we were supposed to get a feature-length film a couple years ago. Now obviously this is a creepypasta, so comment down below what creepypasta I should cover next.
Facts that'll make you smile, Part 8. Seahorses will get married and perform daily bonding rituals with their other half. When your dog puts its paw on you when you're petting them, that means that they're petting you back. Cats don't meow to other adult cats, so if one meows at you, that means it's making an effort to communicate with you. Rats can learn how to play hide and seek, and they will squeak with joy when they win.
Sometimes in movies, when dogs have to look very mean and threatening, they actually have to redo their tails with CGI because they won't stop wagging because they're doing such a good job acting. When bees run into each other, they actually make like a little whoop sound. Fish are actually able to recognize their owners. There's this weird misconception with people that they think that fish can't see out of the glass of their aquarium, but they actually have surprisingly good eyesight.
Animal facts that'll blow your mind right out of your head. Contrary to popular belief, tigers aren't always solo hunters. They hunt in packs a lot, and a pack of tigers is called an ambush. as you can see why. Flamingos are naturally gray. That's their natural color, but they turn pink because of their diet of seafood. The black-footed cat is the most dominant hunter on the planet, despite standing 6 inches tall. There's a crocodile named Gustav that's believed to have killed over 300 people, and he's still out there. Oh, and I guess crocodiles got a new update, and apparently they can climb trees now? The chicken is closer related to the T-Rex than it is any other bird on the planet. There is not one report of an orca ever attacking a human in the wild. Dolphins like to get intoxicated, and they do it by passing around a pufferfish and using its venom. The biggest threat to a porcupine's life is themselves. They like to climb trees, and sometimes they fall and pierce all their quills right through themselves. Under all that fur, polar bears have black skin. It looks like a chupacabra. And the best fact of all, in 2022, the panda status changed from endangered to vulnerable. Go panda.
This is how you spot a skinwalker. On May 6th of 2020, a YouTube channel by the name Gemini Home Entertainment uploaded a survival video. And it was pretty basic, until it started to demonstrate the dangers of nature, calling one specifically an auditory hallucination. You can see someone camping, when all of a sudden they begin recording what seems like a man calling out for help. But if you take a closer look, there's definitely something off about this guy. To this, the video says don't approach it. If you hear them, they have already heard you.
Because I'm thinking, like, what if, like, just what if that was someone that actually needs help? Maybe they just got kidnapped and they're just like, hey, can someone help me? Like, I'm in real pain. And you're just like, oh no, it's a skinwalker. And then he just, like, what if?
I put the semen in a saran wrap every day, like 5 times a day for like a month straight.
He would kind of like roll it up almost like a cigarette, and he would attach it to the line that we had in the vent, and I would pull it through.
This story sounds so made up, but I promise you it's not. These two inmates who have never met each other before were able to conceive a baby through a prison cell air conditioning vent. While Daisy was incarcerated, she began doing what many other inmates do while spending long hours in their cells, and that's communicating with other inmates through the air conditioning vents. Joanne and Daisy began passing photos and notes to each other, and it wasn't long until they began their romantic relationship, all while never seeing each other in person. Joanne told Daisy that he really wanted to have a baby, but he knew that he couldn't do that anytime soon because he was most likely going to be in prison for a long time. He then told Daisy that if he could choose anyone to have a baby with, it would be her. And Daisy, who was so in love with this man, told him that, well, it could be done. Together, they both went about coming up with this crazy plan. This is where things get interesting. Joanne began putting his fluids in saran wrap and rolled it up kind of like a cigarette, and he did this every single day, 5 times a day for about a month. He would then send his fluids wrapped up, attached to a bed sheet that they both made together through the vent. And this isn't even the craziest part, because when Daisy received Joanne's fluids, she transferred it over into a yeast infection applicator. Daisy administered these fluids inside of her daily until she got pregnant.
These are 3 of the most disturbing facial reconstructions I have ever found online. This is number 1. She was found on the 25th of November, 1993, just 30 feet off of a main road. The road was Vance Neck Road, which I believe is in Delaware, but what really freaks me out about this reconstruction is that it's so lifelike. Even so, no one has ever identified her. They don't even know what happened to her. Second one is a John Doe of an unknown child. Originally, when he was found, he was so far decomposed they actually couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl's body they were looking at. And what kind of unnerved me about it is that nobody claimed him. There was never anybody in this area who claimed they had a missing child or knew of a missing child, so where did he come from? And the final reconstruction is who they refer to as Maria. She was a Jane Doe found in 1952 by a hunter, and she had most likely been burned alive. Clay reconstruction of her is of course not the best, but it really didn't do much good in helping anyone to find her because it's been 70 years and she is still an unknown woman.
There's a weird fact you didn't know. Everyone starts out as a female. See fellas, when you're in the womb, your Y chromosome doesn't show up until 5 to 6 weeks later. So you really don't become a dude until 5 to 6 weeks in your mama's belly. Why do you think we have titties that we never use? So yeah, I hope you have fun knowing that you were a girl once.
Man received a notification that someone was in his backyard when he sees this. A man from Argentina woke up one morning to an unusual amount of notifications from his backyard's camera. As he looked over the footage, this ominous-looking figure dressed in long white robes can be seen staring at him. The man believes this entity followed him back home after he tried communicating with spirits at a nearby gravesite. After this entity manifested itself, he explains that many of the neighboring dogs began to weep as if they felt its presence. Could this really be something as sinister as La Llorona captured on camera? Or is this all just an elaborate ruse? I'll let you decide.
This is some dark stuff going on around the world that the public definitely doesn't know about. Up first, humanity has wiped out 60% of the animal population since 1970. Just think about that for a second. 60% of all animal population has been wiped out. This is absolutely crazy, and we use all of these resources for food and clothes and just stuff like that. But when you hear that we killed 60% of the animal population, it kind of makes you think, right? Next up, we all know the mega city that Saudi Arabia is building called Neom. But did you know Saudi Arabia is sentencing people to death who refuse to move out of their homes so they could actually build the mega city Neom? And their relatives are being sentenced to multiple decades of prison time just for protesting and posting their support to the cause on social media. This is absolutely sickening, and I can't believe nobody is talking about this. This next one is going to keep us all up at night. But bacterial resistance to antibiotics is at an alarming level. There has already been instances of pan-antibiotic resistant strains of bacteria. This can throw us back to the pre-antibiotic era, which will effectively mean if you catch an infection, you will die. Just like in the 1400s. Finally, women are going missing from Indian reservations across some of the United States. Many are young women and are probably being used for sex trafficking. I wonder why they're taking Indian women from Indian reservations. And I wonder why sick stuff happens like this on Earth every single day.
Check out the terrifying moment a man found the backrooms in real life. This is crazy.
I have no idea where the hell I am. This place is so creepy. I'm so glad I didn't bring Jacob or Tommy. This place is just, too weird. I'm getting out of here. What the heck was that?
Why is no one talking about this mannequin and its creepy backstory? This is La Pascualita. The mannequin has been in the window of this Mexican bridal shop since the 1930s. Now look, mannequins weren't even that detailed back then. Customers noticed that you could see fingernails, eyebrow hairs, and veins on the mannequin. By the way, we're making a Reese's milkshake. Out of all three of these flavor ice creams, which one has to go? Vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry? Comment down below, I want to see if y'all got good taste or not. Now back to the story. Yo, this is where it gets crazy. The owner of the shop had a daughter named Pascuala. And in the 1930s, she was going to get married. So of course, being the owner of a bridal shop, the owner went all out for her daughter, buying her the best dress and setting up everything. Sadly, a scorpion had gotten the daughter's dress, and she sadly didn't survive the sting. People say the exact next day a mannequin appeared at the front of the shop, and she looked strangely similar to the daughter. Even the dress looked similar. Aw, snap. Look at that. Woo, sweet baby diabetes. They believe the owner did not want to lose her daughter, so she dipped her in wax to preserve her forever. Do you think this is the shop owner's daughter? And make sure to hit that follow, because tomorrow's story is insane compared to this one.
The only thing scarier than the Ouija board is how the Ouija board was made. After the Civil War, over 620,000 people died. That's a lot of people. All of these families wanted to communicate with their passed away loved ones, and they decided they needed to figure out a way to do that. So this woman named Helen Peters. Helen Peters created the Ouija board, and she was playing with the board when she asked it, "What does your name want to be?" where the Ouija board spelled out the word Ouija. So a few years later, a man comes around and tells Helen Peters that he's willing to buy the entire patent from her. He agrees, but she tells him to be careful. One day the man is on a 3-story building where he falls off and he grabs the windowsill with his fingers. The windowsill shuts down and breaks his fingers, and he falls all the way to the bottom. He's still alive. The people go, they pick him up and they put him in the car, and they're transporting him over to get to the nearest hospital. While the car is driving, they hit a bump in the road, and one of his broken ribs pierced his heart. One of Helen Peters' last ever words before she passed away was to be careful of the Ouija board because it lies. Now Hasbro Games basically owns the entire thing, and they sell it inside of kids stores. This video blows up enough, I'll go buy a real Ouija board and we'll see if it's real. Like and follow.
It's because they're the most athletically disrespectful creatures on Earth. There's no situation where a cat needs to be doing any of that. You see, leopards had a problem. I'm sorry, Zevi, it's too catchy. They live in Africa, but they don't weaponize the power of friendship like lions or hyenas, or a clan of Cujos, or even baboon mafia. And being a solo dolo hunter, well, you see how that goes for cheetahs. They literally have anxiety, but leopards have something cheetahs don't. Two things, actually. They're the best climbers of any cat, and pound for pound, they're the strongest, and these are cats we're talking about. They're plenty OP already. Basically, you got Teen Titans Robin in the form of a weaponized panther. Huh, that is a rhino. Yeah, that is a giraffe. And being able to climb means they can dodge the same smoke that gets cheetahs cooked. So not only do leopards have the longest grocery list of a big cat with like 90-something animals, they have the widest range of any too. But they're also crafty enough to live right next to people. They will pull up to your front door in some places. And because leopards can and will murk anything, in some places they realize that pet dogs are easy calories. I can't show you this video, but by the grace of God and plot armor, the dog made it. Also, hot take, the most dangerous predator is a predator with predators. And since leopards get got by lions and tigers too, they're much more likely to be on site with people if they feel threatened. So yeah, leopards are a flex and my second favorite big cat. What's the first? The more you know.
This is why you always lock your doors. Will from Will Whereabouts was camping in the middle of the woods in Box Hill, UK, when suddenly, late at night, he's awoken by what sounds like human voices.
I don't think I'm going to be getting much sleep tonight.
Will explains he was all alone in that site, so what exactly made those sounds?
Dude, a situation like that, I don't even know what I would do personally. This is why I don't really like to go in the woods like that, mostly late at night, because it's like, what are you doing in a situation like that? You could leave, yeah, but like, what if you leave and whatever the screaming is right there? It's just like...
The story of Jean Dulac and his evil doll. So in the early 1900s, Jean Dulac was one of the most famous ventriloquists in all of vaudeville. His doll not only looked like it was speaking on its own, but it appeared to move on its own and also had a voice completely different from Jean's. This confused a lot of his fans, but they mostly chalked it up to his talent. But others felt there was something slightly sinister about the doll. Reports said the doll was sometimes caught speaking even when it wasn't on Jean's hand. Missy Waters, a vaudevillian dancer and Jean's lover, claimed that one night she walked into Jean's room to find the doll off of his hand and Jean on the other side of the room curled up in a ball crying. She said a voice was coming from the doll speaking Latin, and it clearly was not Jean. The more Jean used the doll, the sicker he got too, and within a few years of his success, he was on his deathbed. And apparently right before he died, he asked to make a call to Missy. According to her, on that phone call, Jean said it was the devil inside of the doll. He said that he had bought the doll off a man traveling through town with the understanding that if he let the devil live inside the doll, he would have all the fame and fortune he desired. His last words were, "Do not let anyone have this doll after I die." The whereabouts of the doll are currently unknown.
Killer whales go through menopause and it makes them the best grandmothers in the ocean. So orcas can live for 50, 60, some even reach 80 years, but the female will stop being able to have kids at around 30 to 40. Normally shutting down the baby factory that early would be bad, but the female orcas that can't have kids anymore will then focus on raising their kids' kids. These grandmother orcas will lead their pod, using their decades of experience to teach all the younger ones the best places to find food. And in true grandmother fashion, the killer whales that grow up around this granny orca have a better chance of surviving and having kids of their own. And since the oldest orca was allegedly as old as the Titanic, they can even end up raising their great-grandchildren. By being that old head that we all need in our lives, the grandma sea panda makes sure that her genes keep getting passed down to the next generation by looking after her grandchildren. This grandmother effect is because female orcas that don't have their own children to worry about have more time to focus on teaching and looking after their grandkids. Moral of this video: orcas are homicidal equality symbols that are the biggest bullies in the ocean. But they're also the biggest grandmama's boys on the planet, and that is the most wholesome thing I can ever say about them.
Hey. Hey, 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 sit there, 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 Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. Dia masuk ke dalam kolam, geng. Dia masuk dalam kolam. Dia masuk dalam kolam.
Nah, that dude is funny for that. He just yelled, "God is the greatest," and just ran. That's hilarious.
Just when I thought I heard about all the worst cults in history, this one had to come and blow them out of the water. This is Colonia Dignidad. They were a German torture cult hiding out in the Chilean wilderness after World War II, aka Yahtzees. And to show you how terrible they were, let me tell you a story. Now, as a quick reminder, if you want more info, you can check out the podcast. The leader of this cult was a known child abuser, and he wanted more Chilean boys to be brought to him. So he started a hospital in the community and used it as a trafficking system to get more children. One day, a young Chilean boy choked and was rushed to the hospital. And right when he got there, a nurse scooped him up, brought him to a room, and saved his life. But later that day, his sister arrived and asked a nurse when she could pick him up to take him home. And the nurse responded that they needed to monitor him for a few more days, which is pretty suspect in a choking case. So a few days later, she comes back and she's like, "Okay, can I get my brother?" And the nurse tells her that he's not there anymore. And this is because the hospital had lawyers on staff that were drafting up adoption paperwork when young boys would come in. The cult was able to legally adopt boys in the community without the parents' consent, and the parents had not enough money to do anything about it. There are so many more stories about this place, and I had never heard of it before, so make sure you check out this week's episode for more info.
Horror movie facts that will haunt your nightmares. Part 2, Coraline. The soundtrack in the movie is a French children choir singing. Surprisingly, they aren't actually singing in French. They're singing in a completely made-up language. If you look on the wall of the dining room in the other mother's home, you'll see 3 portraits of silhouettes. These likely represent the 3 ghost children that appear later in the film. In the normal world, the boy is sad and has dropped his ice cream. But in the other world, he's happy and his ice cream is perfect. On the back of the chair above where Coraline's doll sits features a small flower-shaped pattern. And this flower is almost exactly like the one on the back of Jack Torrance's chair in The Shining. The Welcome Home cake features a double loop on the O. And according to graphology, a double loop on the lowercase o means that the person who wrote it is not telling the truth. But on the cake, there is actually only one double loop, meaning that Coraline is welcome, but she is not home.
In a now deleted post on Instagram, Selena Gomez made a story where she was crying about the people being deported from America, and the US government has now responded to it.
Just wanted to say that I'm so sorry. Only people are getting attacked.
In Selena Gomez's video, she begins to start crying and saying that she's sorry and feels like all of her people are being attacked. She goes on to say how she wishes that there was something she could do and that she will try and be there for anybody that needs it, but she is very upset about everyone that is being deported from America. That's when the US government responded with Tom Homan going on Fox News, who is Trump's border czar, and saying that they do not apologize and that the US government is going to keep going. In the interview, he also mentions how he has not deported any families, he has only specifically targeted criminals that are here in America illegally, and that he is wondering why Selena Gomez is saying that those are her people. After only about 1 hour of being up on her Instagram story, Selena Gomez has now deleted this post entirely and has not said anything else about the situation.
Yo, that border czar dude is so hilarious. I'm gonna see if I can throw in a video. in the next couple seconds or minutes of him talking about the Mexican cartel. I was like, yo, this dude is extreme. I mean, for situations like that, you need dudes like that. I don't even know why Selena Gomez is crying. Does she even watch the news? He didn't say he's just going to deport everyone and anyone. He said he's going to deport the illegals. Like, in terms of people that are causing disruption in the country. Like, just imagine a huge house party that I'm hosting, right? I invite my friends, they invite some of their friends, and like everyone that's supposed to be on the list is on the list. Out of nowhere, a bunch of people that's not on the list starts coming into my house, destroying things, making a bunch of trouble, putting things in people's drinks that shouldn't be in people's drinks, causing fights, causing problems. Obviously, I'm gonna kick him out. So that's pretty much what's going on right now. So I don't know why Selena Gomez is crying, but I also do understand it because she's probably feeling empathy because she probably thinks she knows what's actually happening, but that's not what's really happening. But the people that I do feel bad for is the people that are here illegally, and you know what I'm saying, they're trying to better themselves, they're trying to better their case, they're trying to escape a horrible lifestyle. And the people that come in and just destroying the country is making it bad for those people that are actually here trying to better themselves, you know. Those are the people I genuinely feel bad for. And I think those are the people that Selena Gomez are crying for, but at the same time, I feel like a good amount of the people that are here are also criminals, so we can't have that. That's how you destroy a country, if I'm being real. Thank y'all for watching. If you guys like the video, remember to like the video. I'm about to throw in that video right now about the border czar dude. The dude's freaking hilarious. Let me know you guys' thoughts about Selena Gomez in these videos. Peace out.
I got another message to the criminal cartels in Mexico. You smuggle enough fentanyl across this country to kill 148,000 young Americans. You have killed more Americans than every terrorist organization in the world combined. And that's when President Trump gets back in office. He's going to designate you a terrorist organization, and he's going to wipe you off the face of the earth. You're done. You're done.
Thank you all for watching this here video.